it's me, Imogen, and today I'm going to talk about She's Always Hungry by Eliza Clark. This is another short story collection, and it's not the kind of book that would be for everyone, and I'm not sure if I liked it all that much. The idea, I guess, the overarching theme is hunger in different forms, and I would say that every story involved it to a degree, maybe kind of stretched a little bit. The genres of the stories kind of are a big mix, like some of it is more, wouldn't say realism, but it does reach a variety of a spectrum of real and unreal. Some more science fiction, some more just surreal, some possibly even considered horror. It's clear that it's supposed to be shocking and uncomfortable and strange. It's also kind of darkly humorous, which the first couple of stories did make me laugh out loud, which I thought was great and kind of made me think going in that this was going to be great all the way through. So I was a little bit disappointed when that wasn't the case for me personally reading this. There's a lot of like body horror, which is sort of fun. Some self-cannibalism, regular old cannibalism, sort of mutilations, and a lot of just sort of gross like bodily imagery, which I would say is one of the strong points of the collection. I have to say that some of the stories did drag a little bit. I mean, none of them are particularly long, but I did find almost the science fiction ones a bit too hard to get into. I mean, I'm not huge into science fiction anyway, and if I am, I need something that kind of anchors me to it, like interesting characters or interesting ideas explored. But I didn't really find that in here, where it did tackle more of a science fiction genre, unfortunately. I would say the stories that I enjoyed the most were the ones that I could relate to more, I guess. There's a story about a very young girl who is obsessed with fixing her skin, and it's really quite horrific and disturbing, but it also covers a sort of everyday aspect to it, and I quite like the convergence of the normal and the very horrifyingly abnormal. So I found that quite entertaining to read, if terribly sad as well. There's also a story that is mostly set after the apocalypse, I suppose, which I also found to be one of the strongest. It's quite brutal and unhinged, as you could describe the whole of the book to be, but I thought it was fun. I am a big fan of the Fallout games, so a story about people acting crazy after the end of the world in a contemporary sense was very much my type of thing. I almost wished it was longer because I just find this sort of absurd idea very compelling. I would say the experience of being a woman, especially in our current society, is well captured in the book, and I certainly could identify with passages in there. But unfortunately, I think it's sort of overshadowed by the goal to be as weird as possible. And I love weird, but I prefer weird to feel a bit more natural and organic, which it just felt a bit too forced here for me personally. There's sort of a fine line from too weird to just weird enough. And for me, this book just kind of went too far the other way. I have not read any other Eliza Clark. I know her novel Boy Parts is much more well regarded or popular, I suppose. But I don't know if she is quite my cup of tea, but perhaps one day I will give her another go, as there are some things in the book that I did appreciate. Just the execution isn't quite my style. I would say my absolute favourite story in here, which did revive my craving for a certain type of fiction, was The Story Company Man, where, I mean, it did get a bit far-fetched again for my liking, but there are some ideas that I really enjoyed about it. It sort of begins with this woman who has sort of two selves, like her past self and maybe her true self, and the self that she's recreated in order to make up for her past horrendous mistake, which isn't revealed until about the end. And I found the descriptions of kind of consciously choosing the self that you're portraying to someone else an idea that I really like, but I was sort of disappointed when it came to the sort of climax of the story, and it was a lot more sort of not really about that anymore. But for the majority of the story, it was probably the most enjoyable in there for me, probably because it was a bit more rooted in reality, I suppose. But I think this is a book that's more for fans of more strange contemporary styles of science fiction, gore, if you like unhinged things, sort of images and strange concepts more than a narrative, maybe, then maybe this is more the sort of book for you, more than for someone like me. But yeah, overall, I was a bit disappointed in this book, but I'm sure there might be something in there for other people if they're more inclined to body horror or science fiction or stranger concepts that I struggle with personally. Thank you for watching.